Welcome back to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Coming up, from retirement to full-time author, an accomplishment of a lifelong goal. From film writer to book writer, follow an assassin on the road to rebirth. Watching a pet grow old leads to a children's book that teaches empathy. The adage, the more you read, the better you'll write, inspires a horror novel. But first, a former paralegal who worked mostly in cities, Leslie J. Weatherford's life was transformed when she moved to a farm in tiny Galeen, Michigan. Over the last 20 years, she's built a green space for things to grow, people of all ages to visit, and it inspired her children's book, Farmer Fuzzy Pants. So tell me about your farm.
We do corn and soybeans, and then every year in September and October, I do pumpkins, all kinds of heirloom pumpkins, regular pumpkins, and then we do some gourds, some decorative stuff, corn shawks and straw bales, and then I have a corn maze. And then I also have rides for the kids, a tether ride. Tether rides, there's 4 people sit on it, and then you walk it around like a tether ball. You walk it around, and then you just whip it, and it comes down all the way down, and it goes all the way back up, and it comes all the way back down, and it's all done by hand.
Oh,
no
my
machines.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's a trip. So if you go to our website, KreitzerFarms.com, you'll see all the rides and everything that we do here. So
okay, and
cool.
then that's Kreitzer, Kreitzer Farms.
Yeah, right. Now, everything in the book is basically what we used to do when we grew vegetables and when we grew corn and soybeans and all that, which we still do. But that's the inspiration was my fiance. We've been together 26 years. He wears fuzzy pants in the wintertime. And like 10 years ago, when he kept calling, "Where's my fuzzy pants? Where's my fuzzy pants?" So I started calling him Farmer Fuzzy Pants. So 10 years ago, at least 10, I wrote this book about how we farmed it, how we do the vegetables, the tractors and the equipment we used. And it basically tells you the story of how the farmer and his wife works on a farm. And it explains to the kids, this is what happens. Once you plant them, you go out there and check the fields, you check the crops, then you harvest everything, and then you turn around, you sell them, you sell your product and stuff like that. So that's where the inspiration came from, was him and his fuzzy pants and what we did on the farm. And I was real naive, back then. I'm come from New York, so the city life was different from the farm life. So what got me going was actually watching him, how hard he worked on this farm to make things grow, and what he had to do to spray stuff so that the animals, the bugs, the insects, everything, the fungus and everything wouldn't grow on the plants. So he would go out there and he'd spray this stuff, and I'm watching him do all this stuff. And it just blew my mind how he would mix the chemicals. He would know how to do that per acre, per ounce per acre, per ounce per gallon per acre. It's like that. It was like, this blew my mind, coming from the city, and you come here and you're watching these farmers. It's just not him, it's other farmers. And how the stuff grows. And then when it gets to a certain point, they have to go out and spray them. And then after that, then they have to go down and put the applicator down and put like the nitrogen in the ground to make things grow. So yeah, that was a big inspiration for me. I was really surprised at the amount of work they have to do to get stuff going. So, yeah.
And this was 10 years ago you wrote this book?
Yeah. It's about 10, maybe 12, but I'm estimating around 10 years ago, yeah.
What took you so long to publish it?
The first time I checked on it, they wanted, I just pulled up, I went online and pulled up publishing companies. And the information I got was that there was no financing plan. There was no way they can take monthly payments and stuff. So I just didn't do it. So I waited till I started seeing advertisements on TV now, saying that, there's Christian Publishing, there's Discover Publishing, and then I hooked up with Page Publishing. And when I started talking to them, they said, well, no, you just come up with a certain amount down, and then we make monthly payments. And I said, well, I can do that. So I sent them the manuscript. They got back to me. And the fee was right, the price was right, and I said, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. And then I said, well, what do I got to do? And they said, well, you don't really have to do anything except when our editing department edits your book, you have to approve it. And when it goes to the illustrations, you have to approve it. And the illustrations were photos that I had sent in. of stuff that we did on the farm, pieces of equipment. There was a wiggle hoe, which is also in the book. You'll see a picture of it, with the kids driving the tractor and then sitting on the wiggle hoe. Everything looked good, and then they sent me a copy of the cover of the book, and we adjusted all that, and then all of a sudden I got this book published. It's like, wow. It just blew my mind. So now I have book 2 going. They're working on book 2 right now.
Is the second book a continuation of this one?
Yeah, it's going to be like a series. The name of it's Farmer Fuzzy Pants Goes to the Fair. The neighbors' kids go to the fair. They show their animals. They sell them at the auction. They show them at the grandstand. Then they have a tractor pull at the fair, so there's photos of them doing the tractor pull. Farmer Fuzzy Pants brings his camper to the fair because they have to stay there for a whole week to take care of their animals. So yeah, it's basically like an extension of the first book, and then there'll be a third book, but I'm going to kind of wait for the second book to get going. So
prior to this, you had never written before?
No. Well, I wrote a journal when I was living at home. I lived my mom was real abusive, so I used to be sent to my room a lot. So not only did I play guitar and write music, I wrote a journal, and this journal was probably 4 inches thick when I moved here to Michigan, because I would write every day, and it was abusive, and it was heartfelt, and it was just, I love to write. This computer stuff where you have to sit on a computer, I can write faster than I can type on a computer, just because my mind gets going and I just start writing. And then when I get on a computer, I got a backspace because I made a mistake, or I have to rephrase it because it wasn't what I wanted. So it's easier for me to sit down with a pencil and just start writing. And that's what I did. So, and then when I got here, when I met John, living in this so-called simple life, I said, well, I don't really want him finding this journal. I don't want him to know what my past was like because it was so bad. So I sat down and I just burnt the whole thing because it's in my mind. I could rewrite it if I want to, but in my mind, I know what my past was like. I know what it was like living there, and So I always wrote. I don't like emails. I'd rather just write, but that's what today's society is now, is all emails. So so I'm still doing my writing. I decided to do kids books because it's easier right now.
How are you talking about it?
Basically just my friends and family, when they seen, I put it on Facebook that I wrote this book, so I got a lot of people buying it off of Facebook. But I'm going to hit the local libraries around here. We got like 3 or 4 of them. I want to go in there, introduce myself, let them know I have these books. I think I'm going to be selling a lot more books at my festivals. I have a festival. The first Saturday in October is our kids' festival. We call it the Harvest Festival. And during that day from noon to 5, I probably get tons of kids here. I do everything for kids here because there's nothing in this town for kids to do.
Well, good for you.
So I started doing this corn maze and stuff for the kids around here, so that this town is so dead. The kids are walking the streets at 13 years old with babies because this town is dead and there's nothing to do. That's why I started the kids book, because kids is like, I don't want to say my passion, but kids today, there's just everything is on the computer. Everything is games and everything. So to get them out of the house, to get them to do something, they can come here every day. Even if I'm not open for the corn maze and I'm not open for pumpkins, they can come here and pet the animals just to get away, And like I said, I got swings out here. I got the rides out here for them. So there's a place for them to go instead of just walking the streets,
All right. You are Leslie J. Weatherford, author of Farmer Fuzzy Pants. Thank you so much. And if you want to find out more about your farm, it's CRITZER, kritzerfarms@gmail.com. Heather Snodgrass is an actress, film writer, and now published author of A Love Letter to Reading. Now, this started out as a TV show, right? About an assassin?
It was something that I just had this little idea, and then the more I built on it, I was like, I'd really like to bring this to life as like a TV show kind of deal. And then at some point, I was like, I want to turn this into a book. And so I sat down and just kind of started writing, and it really came together that way.
So Scorpion is your master assassin.
Yes, she's raised with her father and family have a business, a little seedy business, and They basically raise her to be an assassin and help with the business doing, you know, those types of things when they need it. So that's how she's brought up, and she starts to realize that she's kind of on the wrong side and that her actions have consequences, and she knows she needs to make it right. So we follow her along that journey, and basically she discovers reading through some grief and through some other things of her own personal issues. And as she's discovering reading, she's developing more empathy and starting to really realize how she needs to reconcile things.
Yeah, I mean, if she's an assassin, I guess she had to learn how to separate her emotions from what she was doing.
Yes.
Yeah. How did you envision this as a TV series?
The way I wrote it out, because I wrote from the pilot to the end episode as a limited series. So it would have to be, it would be on like a streamer type thing where there's not as many restrictions. But I had pretty much every episode written, and there was a pretty good storytelling throughout the whole series, where every episode and there's a couple other characters that were going to be main characters if it turns into a series. So that's the way I kind of envisioned it, is like she has a couple friends that she makes along the way, and they were going to actually have bigger parts. So I was going to tell a little bit of their story as well. And so, yeah.
But her main goal is to stop the people she works for, which is her family, right?
Yes.
So now that you've written this, and your background, you said that you've written for film.
Yeah, that's how this started. Yep.
Then do you have people to send this to that could actually make this your dream a reality?
That's it. I was working on that about 4 or 5 years ago. I was working on getting that in development. And then some personal stuff happened and I stepped back, and then that's about the time that I thought I'm going to make this into a book, and that's the journey I've been on at the moment. So, the next step is probably to continue to pursue that again.
How are you telling people about your book?
Oh man, I've done a bunch of interviews. I've done social media marketing. I have websites.
Have you set this all up yourself?
At the time, I've done some of it myself, and I have done some of it through other marketing firms. I found some people on social media that would do little posts for me. They do reviews, and that's what they do. That's their whole account. So I got some people on board, and they went forward and posted for me reviews. And I always ask people to do honest reviews. I definitely don't want anybody to give me a fake review just because. So I always encourage honest reviews with anything people have to say. But yeah, that's the thread I started at, was book reviewers on social media, and then I would hit the local bookshops around here, kind of just around Colorado that I knew about, and just kind of kept pushing and pushing until they had some of them have local author book fairs. And so I got in on a couple of those, which were really nice. And then I eventually made it to some point where people were reaching out to me to do interviews on, I did a TV show and some other stuff. So it's really just not giving up and just pursuing any lead.
Sounds like you're pretty proactive in terms of getting the word out about your book.
I've been trying to be. Yeah, it's a tiring route. I'm not going to lie about that. It can be exhausting sometimes. You just feel like you're running into walls at times, but you just keep with it. That's the best advice I can give, is just keep with it, because you've got a good book. So you just want people to read it.
You're going to keep writing?
Yes. Yep, I've actually got 3 other stories. I just haven't decided which one to dedicate more time to. So what I've been doing is, depending on the day, I'll sit down and write for whichever story I'm feeling that day. So,
I have to ask you, why the title A Love Letter to Reading?
so that is basically a call out. That is a personal call out of mine, basically. I say basically. But so it's Scorpion, she develops a love for reading, and that's kind of what pushes her into the being more empathetic in her life and realizing that her actions have had consequences that have hurt other people. So she needs to change and rectify things. So the whole book is sort of a love letter to reading, because it's showing that, reading books actually is the missing piece of the world right now.
Because it can actually change you.
It can actually change you. Yes.
I love that. Because when you look at the title and then I read your synopsis, I was like, what? What's going on?
Yeah.
I figured, oh, this is going to be a nice little. No, this is serious stuff. And I was just reading, I guess I was reading the New York Times or something, I don't know, talking about like how social media and the amount of time we spend on it, it's destroying us.
Mm-hmm.
It's destroying us.
It is. It absolutely is. I feel like that's been a huge downfall of our society, which it was supposed to be a good thing, but it's hurting us. Yeah.
I know. And it was a good thing, but like anything else,
Yeah.
it's got to run its course.
Yeah.
And I think like
Yes.
like my kids are in their 30s. They like hate it.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing
Yeah.
so hopefully that pendulum will swing back. Anyway, Heather, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you too. Yeah. Thank you so much.
An equine therapist in California, Kimberlee A. Countryman, was shaken when her dog started acting out of sorts. It inspired her book, The Adventures of Bug and Beto, a tale of love and laughter. Kimberlee, what happened?
I woke up, what was that, 2024, and I had an elderly dog. I have 2 dogs, but one of them elderly, and he started to go senile. He was blind and deaf and started to go senile. And my uncle at the same time got diagnosed with frontal lobe dementia. So I woke up, and I've always wanted to write, and I thought, I'm going to do a children's book. And it slowly evolved into an idea for a 10-book series, so I could touch on the 10 major mental healths. And I started with dementia, and that's what this first book is about. And it's a way for children to start the conversation. I watched my family go through it with him and support him, and I couldn't imagine. We have some young children in our family, and it was really hard to talk about it with them because they don't understand what's happening to their grandpa. And I realized, like, oh my God, this would be 10 times harder if I was young. And so it's just my way of helping kids be introduced to mental health.
How do you illustrate how he forgets? Like, how do you lay out this story?
So I have a wonderful illustrator. His name's Loic Capreda, and he worked on a project with me a few years ago. I created CBD treats for horses and dogs and cats and all of that. And I realized when I started to write this book, I wanted him or I wasn't going to do it at all. And so he agreed, thank God. And the way that I have written it out, he just captures it. He just captures it with his illustrations. And I thought it turned out just wonderful. I love the way he illustrated everything.
Well, tell me the story.
So it's, the 2 dog brothers, and Beto starts to sort of get confused a little bit. And in this book, he forgets how to bark. Instead, he gets confused and he meows like a cat. And he comes up against some obstacles with the squirrels in the park, where they laugh at him and they think it's really funny. And his brother, Bug, instead of judging or joining in with the squirrels, he joins in with Beto instead. And so they just start meowing at all the animals that they see at the park.
Is Bug upset to see what's happening here?
He gets a little sad, but understands that it's his brother. And if this is the new journey that his brother is on, then he's going to join him and he's going to support him. They take their daily walks together. And then throughout the book, it's just really reiterated that no matter the seasons, no matter the day, no matter what the journey brings, Bug's going to be with him and help him through with love and support. Or I think it's love and laughter is what I say in the book. And I rounded out with illustrations of other animals thinking that they're different. So like a flamingo thinks he's an elephant, or an elephant thinks he's a tiger, and it gets rounded out that way in the illustrations at the very end.
Okay. Are you in a position to read this book to kids?
So my uncle is now in a memory care facility up in Montana. And so I did go up there a few months ago to visit with him, and I read it to everybody in his memory care place. And what I'd really like to do is bring it to children's hospitals. I would love for it to be in classrooms and everything like that, but I'd like to start with children's hospitals. I had cancer when I was young and basically lived in the hospital for a few months. And I remember when we used to have like reading corners, and I remember just being able to get out of that stupid bed and go down the hall to a fun, bright looking room and have somebody read me a story really helped. So,
do you have any idea of how you're going to do that?
I do have some contacts at UCLA. I just haven't reached out yet.
Okay.
But that's where I'd like to start.
Do you have an outline for what the rest of the books are going to be like?
I do. And I've written the second one. It's being illustrated right now. That one talks about anxiety.
Okay.
And it's all based off of dogs that I've had in my life. So the anxiety, I had a German Shepherd. She passed last year, but I had a German Shepherd that suffered from really bad anxiety. So I've introduced her in the second book, and the outline just goes from there. The third book introduces depression, and that's around another dog that I've had. So yeah, it goes from there.
That's great. Any timeline for how you'll do this?
Ideally, I'd like to put one out a year.
Great.
So the first book came out this year, the next book hopefully next year, and so on.
Okay. Any thoughts on somebody has an idea, they don't know how to get started? Do you have any advice?
I think the biggest thing that I can say, because I've had friends ask me the same thing, like, how did you do this? Like, what? And honestly, the biggest thing was not giving up. Like, I really believed in this. I really believed in this book. I wanted it out there. And it's just the act of putting pen to paper. And I'm old school, so I don't type. I mean, I do. I'm corporate. I can type, but not when it comes to something that I'm passionate or idea or vision based. The act of putting actual pen to paper is how it starts, and it really sinks, and it really makes this connection with the passion that you've created and the thoughts that you have in your head. And you just do it. I started with bullet points on a Post-it note. That's how I started. And from there, I just wrote it out. Once I had the bullet points, I started to connect them. And I just wrote. And, a couple months would go by and I wouldn't do anything with it. And then I'd wake up in the morning and go, no, I'm going to write a sentence. Even if that's all I do today, I'm going to write a sentence. And you just do it. You just do it and you don't give up.
Thank you, Kimberlee. Thank you for that. I think that's some valuable information there. You are Kimberlee A. Countryman, author of The Adventures of Bug and Beto, A Tale of Love and Laughter. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been said the more you read, the better you'll write. O.A. Curls was convinced of that over the years, and now he's published Darkness Reborn, Awakening. Now, there's a lot of talk about elements in this book, so I'm guessing you're a horror fan, right? Paranormal, Stephen King.
Yeah, so I like Stephen King. I like Dean Koontz. I've read some of the classics too. I've read all the Mark Twain. I've read Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird. I've entered into some of the past stuff. I read stuff less for pleasure, things like the Bible and stuff like that. I've read that right there. So I spend a lot of time reading. I really enjoy audiobooks. Those are great.
What inspired Darkness Reborn?
So it basically started with a scene. The scene of a giant kind of ominous black cube in the middle of a forest setting, which turned out to be a prison for like an ancient entity. From there, the story just kind of developed on its own.
Okay, so tell me about Sebastian. Is that your main character?
So yeah, he's one of two main characters, Sebastian and Thomas. And Sebastian is probably the most interesting. Thomas would be more of the straight kind of guy, just the follow the rules, go by the way. Sebastian was originally, as I was writing the book, going to be a minor villain. He was supposed to be someone that would work with one of the more major villains. And as I started writing him, Sebastian did not want to be that at all. And he kind of took his own shape and his own life and turned out to be the exact opposite of a minor villain. So there basically was a universe before the current universe. And the story takes place on a world that is very similar to our world, even connected to our world, just in a different reality. And there are 12 elementals that were kind of in charge of a universe before the universe in the book. And a giant black cube appears in this small village, and turns out it's a prison for one of those elementals who had rebelled against creation. And so 12 of them were imprisoned, and that prison is failing. And as it fails, it begins to allow the elemental that is inside of it to begin to manipulate and to influence the environment around it and to begin to take over things. And so really it's a race against time to stop the prison from failing or to re-imprison the elemental before the prison completely breaks down and it is able to free itself and then begin to loose the other 11 elementals, which would end in basically the destruction of the world and the universe for them to reform the universe in their own image again.
Ooh, this sounds involved.
Yes. And it it takes place over a vast, mostly plains-like area, kind of like the Great Plains, and it kind of wanders from a village to a major city, and then to another kind of hidden community that's been isolated for years. So yes, it does take place over a long stretch of not a long stretch of time, but a vast amount of distance, I would say.
In your synopsis, you say years later, with his army ready, Sebastian is poised to exact vengeance on the evil city that took his mother's life. So is that what's at the heart of the story?
So yeah, Sebastian was orphaned when he was young, and he was taken in by actually a stray dog who he thought of as his mother, and that dog was killed in this very evil city. It's like the largest city around in the land, as some cities are. Is very corrupt in some ways, and so Sebastian kind of has spent his whole life with that in mind. And then, as he was going through the city, as he got a little older, he witnessed slavery in the city, and that was another thing that affected him dramatically. And so his purpose is to build an army to overthrow basically the social structure that allows for those kind of things. But right in the middle of all that, he is reunited with Thomas, which is his childhood friend from the sanctuary where they both grew up, learning some of the mystical skills of the white. And Thomas is on a quest to find Sebastian because he holds the key to helping overthrow the elemental that's trying to escape, which kind of flies in the face of Sebastian's own plan, because now there's a much bigger problem and a much bigger quest than simply overthrowing a city. Now he has to decide which task is more important, saving the universe or overthrowing the evil city.
Oh boy. Are you getting the word out about it?
I have about a 1,500 person connection on, different social media platforms. So I put it out there, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't know what the next step as far as, like advertising goes. That's something that, I'm learning and figuring out and hoping the publisher can help me out with. I have not done book signings, but that is very much on my agenda to do.
All right. Are you going to keep writing?
Yes, actually. The next book is probably twice as long as this one already. Yeah, it's long. It may end up turning into 2 books. It's gotten so long, but yeah, it's kind of it's not a sequel to this one, although it is connected to the same universe. There is actually a couple cameos from some of our old friends that we will find in Darkness Reborn, but it actually takes place in a different kind of world that just hops over to this world for a moment in time.
Okay. How long is this book?
It's about 300 and about 10 pages, I think it is. Or so.
All right. That's not too bad. Not too bad.
Yeah, it's a pretty standard. I call that, to me, that's a standard. When I read, I actually like longer novels. I like to be able to jump into a world and stay there for quite a while. So 300's about where I like it. The longer novels I've read, those are really compelling. Some of the King novels that get really long. Long novels don't bother me. I enjoy them.
All right. You are O.A. Curls, author of Darkness Reborn, Awakening. Thanks so much for talking to me.
Yep. Thank you. Have a great day.
After over 20 years helping veterans and their families, Helena K recently retired. She battled breast cancer and always felt that something was taking her away from what she really wanted to do. Until now. You finally started writing children's books, and the name of your first book is entitled The Adventures of Jimmy and Fresco. Good for you, Helena.
I love to see children happy. I love to encourage children. Like when I was a single parent at one point in my life, and I had a little girl at one point, my daughter, and I used to put her in front of the mirror when she was little, and I used to say positive affirmations over her and say, "You're beautiful, you can be anybody you want to be, you're special, you're important, you're smart." So, I've always encouraged little kids, and at one point I wanted to be a nurse, but what happened was I was doing the Candy Stripe in New York. And when I went, they put me in the burn unit, just to help the nurses. And what happened was I saw the children and it broke my heart. And because some of them were burnt, and I went in the bathroom and I cried, and I just couldn't handle it. But in the civilian life, I did work in different hospitals, like the Hospital of Special Surgery and New York Hospital, and I did work in the pediatric intensive care unit with, for the children. And I've always been somehow attached in that realm with the kids. So, sometimes there's so much sadness in the world that you just want to see them happy. That's all.
So where did the Adventures of Jimmy and Fresco come from?
I tell you, that's another story. Okay, like I used to live in Northern Virginia, right? So when I was living in Northern Virginia, um, I was working at I worked for DOD and the Department of Veteran Affairs. And one day I was in my car and all of a sudden it just popped in my head. It was just Jimmy and Fresco, it just popped in my head, and I'm like, Lord, where did that come from? So all of a sudden this adventures, I mean, it just played over a time of 5 years that the story started developing in my head. And I believe that the Lord inspired me to write this story. So it just started to resonate with me, and that's how it appeared. And not only that, I believe also that not only did this was resonated and ignited by the Lord, it also was a story from my childhood. Like, for instance, my father didn't allow us to have pets when we were children. So one day, one day, my brothers and we found a stray puppy. We took him home. We were so excited. We took him home. We washed him up. We fed him. We hid him in the closet. We were so excited. We were so excited. We were like, we're going to keep him. And then my father came home from work and he started barking.
Oh, no.
And the gig was up, and my father made us give him away and and we were just so sad. But I think that was part of the heart of the story, where this is coming from my childhood,
Yes. So Jimmy's an only child, and he's shopping with his mom, falls in love with a dog in a pet shop.
Exactly.
And, she says no, and then she says yes.
Yeah.
Well, no. They end up giving him a dog for his 6th birthday.
Yes, exactly.
So they become like best friends.
Yeah, later on in their adventures, they grow this beautiful bond, and they really come to know what friendship is really about, And this is not just this is a series. This is not just one story. It shows the hope and the imagination, how they explore the adventures together, and their friendship and their bond grows.
Oh, so this is just setting us up.
Yeah, exactly. This book, they just get to know each other. They're just introduced. And then later on, they get to start their adventures, because Jimmy, he has this desire he wanted a brother or sister, but his mother and father, they're not having a kid at the moment, and he wants a companion. He longs for one. So the next best thing is to, when he saw the pet, when he was shopping with his mom, he saw that beautiful pet that he wanted. But his mother said, no, you can't have. But she later on surprised him for his birthday, and he was so excited. So now he gets to learn, gets to meet Fresco, and they get to start to be friends. And then you'll later on see how their friendship and their bond grows, and they go on different adventures and learn each other.
Is there a lesson in every book?
Yes, there is a lesson in every book. And also there is, I created 2 activity pages in the back of the book. One is a color page that reflects either a character or a scene in the book that reference, a character or the scene. And then there's a vocabulary building word for children in the back of the book as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
How many books altogether?
Well, I have a lot, but I also am writing other books. It's not just Jimmy or Fresco. I have a mystical book later on. Actually, it's being published now. It'll come out in 2026.
How are you drawing attention to your books?
Well, I recently sent my book to Tamara Hall. I also have my book in doctor's offices. You know, I've got the posters and stuff like that. I'm putting that out there. Believe it or not, I had several people who already went to classrooms and read the book. I have pictures of people who took the book. Like I had a friend, she took the book with her little son. He had reading day, and she had her daughter take the book in, and they took pictures of all the kids reading it, and they excited. Then I had my brother's daughter take the book in, and they read it to their class, and they're all excited about it. And my daughter, she posted it on her Facebook, and everybody's reposting it. So
Great. Helena K,
Mhm.
author of The Adventures of Jimmy and Fresco. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your help, and I appreciate you calling me, and I wish you all the best, and thank you. And I want to say thanks to all the readers, and I pray that they are encouraged by my book and that the children are happy when they read it.
I'm sure they will be. We hope you enjoyed this edition of the Reader House Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. We hope to see you back here every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, or listen to our podcast anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.